Welcome to the University of South Florida Department of Transportation Regulated Medical Waste Training. For closed captioning, please click the CC button on the bottom right-hand corner. The U.S. Department of Transportation, also known as DOT, regulates the transport of hazardous materials in commerce. Therefore, training is required by DOT for all individuals who perform work functions covered under Subpart H of Part 172 of the Hazardous Materials Regulations, HMR, related to hazardous materials transportation. These work functions include, but are not limited to, certifying on a shipping document that a hazardous material is in proper condition for transportation, loading a hazardous material package onto a transport vehicle, marking or labeling a package to indicate it contains a hazardous material. This training will address the following topics. 1. General awareness. This topic will discuss the procedures related to the packaging, labeling and shipping of hazardous materials. 2. Safety awareness. This topic will discuss procedures related to the safe handling of hazardous materials, incident response, and ways to avoid accidents involving hazardous materials. 3. Security awareness. This topic will discuss various security risks involved when transporting hazardous materials and methods used to minimize the accidental or intentional release of hazardous materials and security methods to ensure that the transportation of these materials are secure. For the purposes of this training, the procedures set forth are only applicable to the transportation of regulated medical waste. Therefore, any individual who is responsible for certifying the shipping papers related to regulated medical waste in the USF system are considered a hazmat employee by HMR and would be covered under this training requirement. Hazmat employees must be trained 90 days following initial hire or assignment of the specified work functions, every 3 years thereafter, or whenever there is a change in the regulations. Training records must include the following information: the individual's name, the completion date, a description or copy of materials used, the name and address of trainer, a certificate of completion which includes a test. Training records must be kept on file during the individual's employment and must be available for any transportation inspector when requested. A hazardous material is defined by DOT as a substance or material that the Secretary of Transportation has determined to be capable of posing an unreasonable risk to health, safety, and property when transported in commerce, and has been designated as hazardous. There are 9 DOT classes for the shipment of dangerous goods. They are: Class 1, Explosives; Class 2, Gases; Class 3, Flammable and combustible liquids; Class 4, Flammable solids, spontaneously combustible and dangerous when wet materials; Class 5, Oxidizers and organic peroxides; Class 6, Poison and poison inhalation hazard; Class 7, Radioactive; Class 8, Corrosive; Class 9, Miscellaneous. Each class has a primary hazard and can have numerous sub-hazards called divisions. Each class and division has an established packing group. A packing group indicates the degree of danger presented by the hazardous material and determines the level of packaging required for safe transport. Packing Group 1 has a high danger level and requires the most protective packaging. Packing Group 2 has a moderate danger level. Packing Group 3 has a low danger level and requires the least protective packaging. Regulated medical waste, also known as RMW, is classified under Class 6, Division 6.2, Infectious Substances. RMW is commonly referred to as biomedical waste, biohazardous waste, or clinical waste. RMW is defined as any solid or liquid waste which may present a threat of infection to humans. This includes body fluids, blood and blood products, items contaminated with infectious materials, sharps. The first topic of discussion is general awareness. The subjects covered include the packaging, labeling, and shipping procedures for hazardous materials. RMW must be packaged at the point of origin prior to shipment. The package must be in a permeable material that completely envelops the waste. Examples of permitted RMW containers include 1. Red bags. Red bags must meet the FAC 64E-16 standards prior to using. In preparation for shipment, all red bags must be secured, labeled with the name, address, and phone number of the location, and placed in an outer non-leaking container. 2. Sharps boxes. Sharps boxes are a rigid leak and puncture resistant container that is designed to primarily store sharps. 3. Outer containers. Outer containers must rigid, leak and puncture resistant containers used to enclose packages of red bags and sharps prior to shipment. All red bags, sharps boxes, and outer containers must be labeled with the following information. International Biohazard Symbol. Words biomedical waste or regulated medical waste. Facility contact name and address. Outer containers include the medical waste, transporter's name, address, registration number, and 24-hour telephone number. Here at USF, a medical waste transporter is used for the shipment of RMW. The medical waste transporter's vehicle must display the biohazard symbol and the infectious substance DOT placard. Examples of these signage are shown on the slide. Shipping information related to the RMW will be documented on a manifest by the transporter. The manifest must include the following information. Proper shipping name. For example, regulated medical waste. Hazard class. For example, 6.2. UN number, for example, UN 3291. Packing group. For example, PG2. Quantity of materials shipped. Emergency response information. Emergency phone number. Shipper's certification, which must be signed by a trained employee. Prior to signing the shipping manifest, please ensure of the following. RMW bags and containers are secured and labeled. Medical waste transporter contact information is posted on the containers. Total quantity, address, and other shipping information is written or typed on manifest. The second topic of discussion is safety awareness. This topic will discuss the procedures related to the safe handling of hazardous materials, incident response, and ways to avoid accidents involving hazardous materials prior to shipment. When handling RMW, please be aware of the following safe procedures. Employees must wear the proper PPE. When there is a need to transport RMW bags and sharps boxes to an outer container within a building, a rolling cart should be used to minimize the risk of a spill or exposure. RMW cannot be transported to another location outside of the building it was generated using a rolling cart. Contact EH&S to set up an outer container at the waste generation site. In the event of an emergency involving RMW, contact USF Police by dialing 911. Emergency telephone numbers should be posted or accessible to employees. Call EH&S for assistance with spill cleanup. All accidents and incidents should be reported. Even near misses where no one is actually hurt are important to record. EH&S will investigate the incident and determine if anything needs to be done to avoid an accident in the future. Suspicious behavior or activity must be reported to USF Police by calling 911. Lastly, misconduct or unsafe conditions that are not addressed by your supervisor can be anonymously reported to Ethics Point, an independent ethics reporting system. Workers' compensation covers faculty, staff, and official volunteers at the University of South Florida. Teaching and graduate assistants are included as staff. If you are injured on the job, notify your supervisor. Your supervisor will report injury to AmeriSys 1-800-455-2079. Proceed to an approved medical facility. Send investigation report to WC office within 24 hours. Forms are available on the HR website. In the event of a small RMW spill. 1. Rinse contaminated surface with a 10% bleach solution for at least 10 minutes. 2. An EPA-registered chemical disinfectant can also be used for disinfection of the contaminated site. 3. Wear the appropriate PPE when disinfecting the area. 4. Liquid waste created by the disinfecting operations can be disposed of down the sanitary sewer drain. 5. Contaminated items such as PPE, rags, and other items used for the cleaning of the site must be placed in a red bag and disposed of as RMW. 6. Contact EH&S to report spill and corrective actions taken to mitigate the spill using the Lab Studio Field Incident Reporting Form. Call EH&S if any of these conditions occur. There are ways to avoid accidents involving hazardous materials. These include the following. Be aware of the potential for sharps injuries and leaking containers. Sharps boxes must be sealed once the contents reaches the full line and must be kept sealed when transporting to an outer container. All containers must be securely closed prior to transporting to the outer container and for shipment. Contents of leaking containers must be transferred to a non-leaking container prior to shipment. The last topic of discussion is security awareness. This topic will cover the security risks associated with transporting hazardous materials and methods used by USF to minimize the intentional or accidental release of hazardous materials, and methods used by the transporter to ensure security of hazardous materials being transported. There are security risks involved for the intentional or accidental release of RMW. Potential threats here at USF can include non-secured areas and unauthorized personnel allowed access to restricted areas. Therefore, USF has established security methods to mitigate unauthorized access to RMW while maintaining convenient authorized access to laboratories and clinics that generate RMW. These methods include restricted access for indoor storage areas and buildings housing laboratories, locks on outdoor storage areas, including containers and trailers, to secure against vandalism and unauthorized entry, a list of all storage areas kept within the Division of Environmental Health and Safety. There are measures in place to ensure that the transportation security of the hazardous materials. USF's current RMW transporter is Stricycle, Incorporated. The driver will wear a uniform shirt identifying the company name and NID. If you are ever in doubt, ask for identification. The driver will not accept any RMW for transport that is not properly packaged, labeled, and transferred into an outer container. In summary, this training is required for all individuals that will be responsible for certifying/signing the shipping manifests for the transport of RMW. RMW containers must be packaged and labeled according to the DOT requirements outlined prior to certifying the shipment. In the event of an emergency involving RMW, contact USF Police by dialing 911. Contact EH&S to report RMW spills at 813-974-4036 or through the Lab Studio Field Incident Reporting Form. Safe handling procedures are outlined to avoid accidents involving sharps or leaking containers. Security measures are in place to minimize the risks of intentional or accidental release of RMW. Suspicious behavior must be reported to USF Police. You can contact EH&S at 813-974-4036. Additional resources involving regulated medical waste and other EH&S services can be found on our website. In the event of an emergency, call 911 for USF Police. You have now completed USF, the Department of Transportation Regulated Medical Waste Training. Good luck on your quiz. If you pass with a 70% or better, you will receive a certificate by email within a couple weeks. Thank you and go Bulls!